53% of homes find buyers within 5 weeks. So that's a good thing. That's a positive. 76% of them find a buyer within 3 months. If you don't sell within that period, then the odds of selling sink dramatically to 50%.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent Podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. My name is Dave Warburton. As ever, I am joined by my colleagues in the industry, Mr. Ian Storey and James Kendall. We also have a very special guest. I'm actually really excited about this because I've been a big champion of Dataloft for a very, very long time. As everybody knows, JK has stolen a lot of what I've done and passed it off as his own now, as you are coming to learn on this podcast. And I'm sure he'll do more of that today, so I'm excited for that. But introducing Mr. Rory Black. How are you, Rory? Okay?
Very good, very good. It's a slight state of shock because it's sunny in Scotland, where I'm based.
Yeah, and it's dismal over here. So we've just been talking
3 years ago. So whenever it's nice up here and bad down there, I'm quite happy.
Yeah, we've just actually
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Yeah, we've been talking off air there about where we're all from, and Rory was completely disgusted with the fact that I'm from Bolton. You should have seen it. Honestly.
Actually, my first reaction was admiration for that beautiful football stadium. But I'm not sure the football team is quite so beautiful that goes with it now.
No, they're not, but I don't care about that. I'm a United fan, so we're on the up. We're on the
right.
up. So it's all good. It's all good.
Me too. Right.
Oh, good. Well, you go. We're off on good footing already. You've got Dataloft, which is my favourite piece of kit in the industry, and you're a United fan, so it's all good here.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
Right. Let's crack on, lads. How has your week been, Mr. Ian Storey?
Quieter on instructions and sales. We had an amazing run sort of 2-3 weeks ago where we banged loads into the pipeline, had a really good run on listings. So the last couple of weeks really have been shoots. I think Scott has had 14 photo shoots to do over about a 2.5 week period. So they're sort of all coming to the fore now, but definitely quieter on vals, definitely quieter on listings. Sales, as we all know, are just, generally speaking, hard work. So many second viewings, and then either they just don't go anywhere, or they try and lowball. There are still sales happening. Our pipeline's good. Our turnover for the year is brilliant. But in this current period, it's a bit challenging. I think we've got a sort of triple whammy of events, haven't we? So we've got the budget looming. We've got half term. So I was away last week, and I know a lot of clients are also away. Certainly a lot of the private schools have got 2 weeks off, and so many people go away, abroad. So I think that is a contributing factor to valuations. And then you've got the budget, which stalls things to a certain degree, certainly at the higher end. And then you've got Christmas coming straight after that. So it'll be interesting to see how the next sort of 2 months, 6 weeks, 2 months really pan out in terms of listings and sales. Having said that, second viewing on a £2.5 million house last week. Spoke to the guy yesterday. He's keen. So sent over some supporting evidence as to why the number is right. Hopefully that'll go somewhere. We've got 3 offers and another one at 1.75. Offers over. They're all over. They're all into the 1.8. So, there's stuff happening, but it's a mixed bag currently. We are, over the next couple of weeks, doing all of our 12 days of Christmas videos. So we do local community interviews every Christmas. We've got all those booked in with the local businesses. So they're all happening. So I think we're going to talk about consistency at some point in the pod today anyway. But even though we are successful and well known and we sell a lot of nice houses, we haven't given up on the basics. So 9,000 not on the market letters went out week before last, or maybe that was last week. All the on the market letters, envelopes being written as we speak. Me and Matt are now door knocking regularly every week. So we're trying to do at least 3 door knocks per week each. So we're not giving up on the basics, even though, on the face of it, we are successful. So that's my week currently. Dave, how about you, JK?
Oh, I thought you were going to be then.
Dave was really excited. I'm going to this week.
Threw a curveball there, didn't I?
Yeah, see what he did there, mate. See what he did. Challenging week on sales progression. Pretty good week on sales. Again, we've listed some stuff that and it's really crazy out there at the moment. As I was saying to Dave yesterday when we had a chat, that there's still people going out there massively overvaluing. And it just seems poignant because obviously we've got Rory on the pod as well, but we'd pulled off all the data on Dataloft on the map of transactions file for everything in. I mean, it isn't a super prime or prime house. This is property that wants to buy one through us, and it's around the sort of 350 mark, and we're selling one at 700. But all of the data for every 3-story, 3-bed and 4-bed semi and terrace has never broken. I think it's £285 a foot is the record. So the data suggests that that the price is probably about 345, 350. And we'd obviously presented the data to them, and they said, well, look, we had another valuation at 385, and that's like well over £310 a foot, like vastly outperforming whatever else there is out there. We asked them, we said, well, what is that based on? Oh, the agent said it felt like it should be that sort of price. I said, well, I mean, it wasn't actually me that went to the vow, it was Chloe, but it's crazy. There's a house sat opposite of the exact same style that's been for sale for 6 months, started at 417, went to 400, went to 395, and is now sat there at 385, and the other agent's just clearly gone, well, that one's up for that, so we'll do that. And it's just a dangerous market, really. But we've launched another house, offers over 6. We've actually got under offer. Actually, we had a really good person inquire about it and got it under offer. We thought it would probably go for more, to be honest, but it suits our clients' circumstances, and they've decided to just go with it because it's chain free. So it is strange out there. And what I'm also finding, and you're obviously finding the same, lads, when we were talking the other day, but it is hard out there. If anyone's listening to this, we're not going out just selling every single house we've got in the first week and riding off into the sunset. There are a lot of tire kickers out there at the moment, and there's a good phrase out there that you have to kiss a lot of frogs in this industry, and I don't think a lot of sellers realise how many frogs you have to kiss sometimes. And for
is
how
that your
long.
saying? Is that your saying, JK?
No, I stole it from somebody else.
Oh,
but, like I always do. But the market does have a recession type feel to it. That's one thing I was going to say. But yeah, generally overall, sales are actually pretty good for us. We are 3/4 of the way of getting our updates out. Been a little bit slow because the printer has been so backed up with letters. So ours has been backed up for probably another 4 or 5 days. So we're almost there now. We've got 9,001 updates going out. So. But no, jokes aside, nearly 10k to go out, and I think the last couple of thousand should go out in the next few days. So yeah, I mean, look, challenging sales progression, challenging to get sales and deals done, but it just is what it is. It's the market right now. So David Warburton, sorry,
no, I'm going to speak first.
Go on.
I just want to pick up on that there. What are you called, James? Because 3 weeks ago, I was on this podcast raving about how brilliant things were and about how many sales we had agreed and how many listings we had coming on. Fast forward 2 weeks, we've had a bit of a quieter period. You're now banging all these sales into the pipe. So it really just shows, doesn't it, that this has always been the case, and it's always the way, and it's peaks and troughs, and it's ups and downs, and you just got to ride it through, haven't you? Because you'll have peaks and troughs all the way through. And you just got to stay strong. And I know, Dave, a couple of times recently you've said that you really don't get massively excited by good things that happen anymore, not necessarily, really, do you? And equally then, when the lows come, you ride it through the same, don't you? You just got to stay fairly level-headed, haven't you?
Yeah.
Most of the time, otherwise you can be more disappointed, I think.
There is another saying, JK, trust the process.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important at this time of year now, and in this market, unfortunately, because it isn't what it was. There's no question. As you know, lads, went a bit more aggressive, if you like, on the next sort of quarterly letter. And it starts with, it's time for people to get real. I think, at the start of the year, we were seeing sales taking place. There was quite a bit of activity. But we've got to remember that was on the back of the stamp duty deadlines coming in. And even though, sorry, not deadlines, the stamp duty thresholds changing. So last Christmas felt like it was probably one of the busiest Christmases I've experienced in terms of viewing activity. Because people were trying to get deals into conveyancing so that they would complete in time for April, so that they didn't fall foul of the stamp duty changes and have to pay more. So I think that contributed into an almost artificial market between January and April. And, we didn't know where it was going. And I think the tone of the letter when we were talking to people was a bit more, at the moment, sales are good. And if your house is well priced and presented well, it will sell. And that is still the case. But what is absolutely critical now for everybody that's thinking about selling a property in this industry, in this market, is that they have to get real with the numbers, because they're just not what they were. And obviously what we're saying to a lot of people at the moment, and Dataloft supports this, in the majority of areas, the numbers that we're looking at now, very, very similar to those that were taking place in sort of February, March, April, May, June of 2021, 22. But the cost of acquisition has changed. It's an awful lot higher. We don't have the 0.1% base rate. We don't have low stamp duty or no stamp duty to pay. There isn't an abundance of buyers, and there is not. You're not out there on your own. Everything's the opposite. So we've now got stock levels at a 10-year high. There's more competition than there's ever been. There's fewer buyers in the market, and they're more fickle, and they want a deal. Interest rates are higher. Stamp duty is high. Cost of living is high. And it's squeezing everybody. And as you've touched upon already, Ian, obviously with the uncertainty surrounding the budget, it doesn't matter what happens in the budget. It has absolutely no bearing what happens in the budget. It's the fact that it causes this chaos. They could be talking about really positive things in the budget that might really enhance the property market. It would still cause a lull in the property transactions. It will go quieter leading up to it, and it will be quieter immediately after it, and more so, most likely, because it's Christmas, unless there's any April deadlines again. So all you've got to be doing right now is educating, A, people that you're going out to value, and B, your existing clients, and holding on to them. And that's what this market is all about, retention and delivering what is the facts. Because if you're not doing that, then ultimately you are telling lies, and you're going to inherit liabilities, not stock that you can sell. And ultimately, a property is a liability until it's sold. So, yeah, people need to get real with the pricing. I'm sharing the same sentiment, guys. Just my last week. I mean, it's not been bad, actually. We've had, it feels quiet, but it's quality over quantity is what I'm experiencing at the moment. So on our We Locate brand, which is our mid-range brand, we've had 3 offers this week, 3 sales, one at the 775, 300, 265. So it's not bad for that brand. On the higher end brand, but James, we've had a couple of offers on 680, 1.365. One of the 1.365 turned into a sale. So we've had 2 decent sales at 1.365 and one at 1,070,000. Instructions are light, but I've been to some really cracking houses. And again, the sentiment's the same for those that know what's happening. I'm going to a lot of high value homeowners who are just saying, I want to sit tight. Tell me what it's worth. Give me your advice. And then let's have a look at it. But tell me the truth, Dave. What's going to happen? So I've been to a beautiful £3 million house for a take-on that's going to be off market for the time being. We did a nice, the Gold Dust Ian that we talked about the other day, one at 700,000 take-on there. I did a great val the other day at an 850 that instructed me yesterday. I told you lads, I went to a renovation project yesterday, and he was pitching me, saying it was a really good one. That he's just seen all our stuff. And he was basically saying, I love all your videos. I love all your marketing and stuff. Will you take this on? It'll look really good on your website. That's what he was saying to me. He was pitching me. And it's going to be an amazing house. It's like 8,000 square feet, £2 million, likely to be 6 to 12 months away. But stuff that I can sort of do a little bit on now. He's well up for doing regular videos and updates on the property, and maybe we can get it away off market. So that was a good one. But the big thing for me, and we've spoken about it a lot, over the last few pods. In fact, we've spoken about it right from the beginning. It's why this podcast came to be, and it's why we are where we are. But the mid to high end really does give you almost like a comfort blanket, because if you've got quality over quantity, and your fees are good, it does give you a little bit of, I think, well, it just gives you that comfort going into the quieter periods because, like I said there, to me, in fact, 5 sales in a week is not bad, don't get me wrong. But if that was just my lower to mid-range brand on how the market's performing at the moment, I think I'd have a bit of a lump in my stomach.
Yeah.
But the reality is, with 1.365 million and 1,070,000, the fees on those are really strong going into the pipeline. You kind of go, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my week as well, lads, I've been speaking to sellers. So I had two brilliant seller reviews in the last 2 days. They just get it, tell them the truth. Again, Rory will come on to you in a sec, but using Dataloft to break down exactly what's happening. And do you know what I'm saying to people at the moment, lads, that hopefully might help a few people listening here? But one line that is going down really well, or sort of one way of explaining it that's going down really well, is if I was to come out to your property again right now and I didn't know anything about your house, so it's not been on the market and I've not got the experience of it being on the market and out there, I would be telling you the same thing. All the price per square foot data looks the same. All the average house prices in the area look the same. All the comparables at the moment look very, very similar. We wouldn't be having a different conversation. I'll only ever tell you the truth at the time that I put your house on the market. Nothing has changed. However, the market is changing before our very eyes, and we don't know where it's going to go. And when you're on a downward spiral, the worst thing you can do is wait. If you are in a position where you have to get a certain amount of money or you have to sell right now, you have to take action. If it is we need a certain amount of money to move, and if we don't get this amount of money, we'll stay, or whatever it is, I think there's a conversation to be had where you say, we'll stay then. Take it off the market, because it ain't ever going to sell at this level in this market. And I had one the other day. It's a separation. It's on at 1.75 million. One party wants to go down to 1.5. The other doesn't, because she wants as much as she can possibly get. The reality is it's never going to get it in this climate. It's just a fact. So I've had to do a big email pointing at all the statistical data for a solicitor to look at. And the market's the market, the price is the price. We can't do anything about that. So it's about giving them the truth. But the truth of that one was, I don't think there's any point in reducing it at this moment in time. It'd be a significant reduction, £250,000, but we've got the budget coming up, and then we've got Christmas. So unless you desperately need to sell, like right now, and we're going to go to a price that I can guarantee a sale at, I think there is an argument to say let's sit tight. And that'll cost me another couple of months of marketing. It won't probably go into my pipeline, but I just think it's best advice for the client. And all our clients are really appreciating that at the moment. But the one thing that I'm really strong on is, if I was to come out to you again, I'd probably be telling you exactly the same things, not knowing what I know now, but we have to adapt to the market conditions we're in. So JK used the line not so long back saying, I think what you've got to do is assess what we think it's worth and then try and find the price banding below it. And I think he's absolutely spot on. And that will generate more activity. And it happens at all ends of the market. The one that we've agreed this week at 1,070,000 was offers over £1 million. And it probably was about, £1 million house, maybe 1.1. But to get 170 in this climate is really good. And the one that we've agreed at 1.365 is also an amazing result. So it does work if you think about price bandings. Anyway, I've spoken for a long time.
Really, I hadn't noticed, actually.
It's normally you, JK, so shut it. But let's reintroduce our guest. Have you got a bio, JK?
No, I haven't, actually.
Oh, my good God. That is shocking. Right, well, Rory, let's reintroduce you. So do you want to give us a bit of background into who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then let's get into it?
Yeah, sure. Rory Black, work for Dataloft. So we're now owned by a company called PriceHubble, who are a European property data solutions company. We also have another company in the UK that was acquired by PriceHubble called Wenfresh, who have a huge set of property-specific data. So I have been at Dataloft for 13 years or 14 years, a long time. I'm really sort of been at the outset of, we started off working with very kind of boutique-y, high-end London Mayfair type estate agents who wanted to understand what was going on in the market and demonstrate their expertise. And that was because they were, in London, selling multi-million-pound houses and coming up against Knight Frank and Savills, and other companies like that who had huge, big market analyst teams and were already experts in kind of sharing their knowledge of the market. So they felt they had to up their game, and they wanted some market reports to take to those meetings, kind of wow those clients. And we've gone from that to several years later, kind of the thought was, well, actually, we could help any agent, however big or small, across the country, almost behave in a kind of Savills-like way, where they can access all the information they could possibly want about their local market, right down to postcode sector level, and then share that with their customers and build their brand, demonstrate their expertise, show that they really know their stuff. And I suppose the ultimate aim is that, and if you're thinking about the sort of premium end of the market, then, certainly if you take somewhere like Winchester, where I used to live before I moved back up to sunny Scotland, you kind of think you're selling a high-end property in Winchester. You think, right, I got to talk to Savills and Knight Frank. It sort of almost rolls off your tongue. And then you think, oh, who else shall I talk to? And you think, why do they do that? And it's because I think they've already got the impression that Savills are experts in selling a high-end property. So I have to speak to them, even if they might not be the best agent in that town. So our kind of job with Dataloft is to arm agents with the ability to show that they're as good as anyone else. In that respect, that was a long bio, wasn't it? So I went beyond the bio and into Dataloft.
Spot on, though. I do think like that, and that's one of the things I think where it slots in quite nicely. I think Savills have been doing for a long time, has had that market intelligence and have been putting those market reports out. And that's why we do what we do every quarter. We do our quarterly market updates because we are, in effect, giving the information out to people on a regular basis, direct to their doors. The Savills one obviously is online. It's very, very good. But it's only there if you look for it, and it's only being sent to select people, whereas we're sending it to a select segment in our market. And I think that's why it's always worked really well, because you are, as you quite rightly said then, you're silently positioning yourself as the authority. So when somebody is ready to make a decision, there's only really one name in it, and we can probably talk of numerous examples between the three of us where we've been the only agent out, because the last 6, 7, 8, 9 updates from each quarter are all in a bulldog clip when we sit down and speak to the client about what their plans are and what they're looking to do. So totally get it. And I think that is one of the powers that we have at the Complete Agent, is that we give independent agents in an area exclusive basis the opportunity to capture that market within their area.
I think it's about if you want, I was thinking about this before, and if you want prime properties, then you need to use prime content, and everything you do needs to live and breathe prime. And I think, and that sounds really straightforward, but the agents they work with that are really proactive are thinking, right, how do I get more high-end homes on my books? Okay, well, I'm going to share market reports that are about the prime market. I'm going to send out flyers that are about the prime market. I'm going to put content on my website that's about the prime market. I'm going to record videos talking about the prime market. I'm going to put out social media posts about the prime market. And so it's sort of unequivocal. So it's like, if you want to, I suppose you could, if you want to dabble in the prime market, then you might get the odd good sale. But if you want to live and breathe it and show that you're a player in that, then you've got to do it sort of day in, day out. And I think, we're very lucky in that, and we can offer our subscribers just huge amounts of resources, all planned and ready to go, that can help them do that.
So can I ask you a question? Sorry, Dave, come on.
No worries. There's no question for me that you said something there, that demonstrate your expertise is what you said, and that's exactly what Dataloft allows you to do. I've used it for a long time, and even though it works exceptionally well at the prime end of the market with the higher value homes, particularly when you've got a lot of square footage and things like that, I've also found, to be honest, Rory, I've got a lower to mid-range brand and I've got a high-end brand, so the two completely separate. I also find it works really well at the low to mid. And the only reason being is, like, a lot of the time you might be looking at, if you go to a 1,200 square foot semi, so if Scott goes out to one there, it's just about them knowing that you know what you're talking about. And a lot of these people, and again, going back to the high end of the market, I find that the majority of people that you're dealing with, they expect you to know. They don't want you to just go in and say, well, there's another 5-bed barn conversion with 2 acres within 3 miles, and that sold for 1.5 million, so yours must be 1.5 million. They want to know the science behind it. They want to know how you've arrived at your valuation. And they want to know that you know what's happening in their area and why it's happening as well. So obviously we've talked about in a bit of detail as to why things might be struggling at the moment with various different other economical factors that are definitely dampening the market at the moment. They want you to know all of this. That's what I've found. And because they're in it every day as well, you're often running big businesses. And the ones that occasionally don't, so let's just say you might get a footballer or a TV celebrity, whatever it might be, or somebody who's just not into data and has something else that's very much their go-to thing, and they don't get the data. They want to know that you do. That's what I find. They want to know that you're in good hands. So if you
I think the key word is trust. I think that is a word that we just hear over and over again. So, we've unpicked the Property Academy Home Moving Trend Survey every year, and that's the biggest sort of survey of home movers in the market. And every single year, the same results come out on top as to why do I choose my estate agent? I like them. I'm confident in their ability to market my property. They've got good market knowledge, and I trust them. And I think you're right, Dave. I think that's you've got to engender trust and a feeling of they know what they're doing. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and this is what allows you to do. I mean, you with the actual system, you can go out, you can comfortably go into a house, show them as much data as you want. I mean, the most poignant data at the moment is showing them the last 5 to 6 years since COVID and how the market has been impacted. Low interest rates, no stamp duty, lots of buyers, fewer houses for sale. You can see the spike. You can see the spike in prices. And whilst, again, this is another thing, the way I've been describing the market at the moment, I'm not saying the bubble has burst. I'm saying it's leaking at the moment. That's what's happening. The market is leaking. We don't know where it's going to go. So you need to take action. And then you can demonstrate on a graph exactly what you mean. And there's a few areas that look like a bit of a roller coaster. There's some that literally just go up, then come right back down. And then there's some that have leveled and are performing a bit better than others. I was doing some data analysis last night, and within the borough of where we are, there's one particular area has actually been a beneficiary of a bad market because some of the higher value homes in neighbouring towns, neighbouring suburbs, they're getting too expensive. And this one here is starting to be a beneficiary of people flipping to it. So when I was writing that letter for that particular area, I changed it up a little bit to say, actually, Radcliffe is thriving. Despite this market, Radcliffe is thriving. These are the reasons why. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have this data available.
No. Yeah, that's so true, that, Dave. We did the same thing. We I know the three of us have done this. We sort of, really, because of you, we broke down our quarterly update into much more micro areas because it is so different across these different areas. We sent out, I think we had 7 different letter formats going out to these 9,000 houses. And when we were editing them before we sent them, it really was a change from one letter to the next. Somewhere the market's fallen by, 4% in the last year. And literally 5 minutes down the road, the market's increased, by 2%. So you really need to know the specific areas, don't you? You can't just say Cheshire. Definitely not. It's postcode area specific massively.
Well,
that's really amazing what you guys do, though, because I think like what you were saying, David, it's that demonstrating your expertise, because it's actually very hard for an estate agent. It's easy to talk about the market, but it's very difficult to demonstrate it. And I think that's what people love about logging and downloading bits and pieces from the platform. But like the overpricing bit that you guys talked about is such an issue in the market at the moment. We can look at we can, agents that work with us can provide evidence that there's overpricing going on locally. But actually what's really important is that across the whole of England and Wales, there's a huge discrepancy between asking prices and achieved prices. And where asking prices are considerably higher than what's actually being achieved. And I think, like, if you're trying to reason with someone who's wanting too much money for their property, I think putting evidence in front of them is going to help you dramatically. It was really interesting. I mean, this is actually not our research, but what we sometimes do is we take a really interesting bit of research from someone else, and we bring it to life visually in our infographics, which a lot of estate agents share on social media or create blogs out of them, etc. And there was something from 20EA that came out recently, which was showing how important it was to get your pricing right on the property from the outset. And they said that 53% of homes find buyers within 5 weeks. So that's a good thing. That's a positive. 76% of them find a buyer within 3 months. If you don't sell within that period, then the odds of selling sink dramatically to 14.5%. So your property, if you don't sell it within that first 3 months, it starts gathering dust. And then actually the evidence was that if you then take it off and give it a 3-month rest and put it back on, then 45% go on to sell after a rest. So almost triple the success rate of those left gathering dust. And I think that's really interesting, but it also just backs up that argument that you've got to get it right from the out. You've got to get the price right from the outset.
Yeah.
And I think, it's difficult to argue with someone that's really hell-bent on wanting too much for their property without having some evidence to show. Yeah,
I agree. Do you know what as well? Just flipping it as well. I think you've got a responsibility to your owner to do it.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about overvaluing here, and agents do go out and tell them what they think they want them to hear, when the reality is the majority of the time you'll get your obvious delusional vendors who think that their house is worth more than everyone else. But the majority of people want to know what it's actually worth and what the chances are of it selling. I was speaking to a client last night, who's going to be a client. We were just talking about when to launch her. And she was telling me, "Oh, Dave, I've been speaking to my friends up at this barn, this beautiful barn. I've been telling them that I really want them to come to you." And she gave me the address. I said, I actually valued it. I lost that one. And she said, "Yeah, I know." She said, was it fee or was it? And I said, "Well, they didn't tell me it was fee, but it's gone on the market £350,000 more than my valuation." And she said, "Oh, right, yeah, they've not had a single viewing in 6 months."
What's
and this particular agent said they've got buyers waiting. What that's meant is that client, I remember seeing them, said, we want to be moved by Christmas. We don't want another Christmas in this house. It means now that they're going to spend another Christmas in that house. And if they don't get it right next time, they'll probably spend another Christmas in that house. So you've got a responsibility to the owner. And Ian, just going back a step, when you mentioned there about the micro areas and how they change, you're absolutely right. So this is why, this is not an advert for Dataloft, but we use it. We absolutely love it. And there are other statistical platforms out there, I'm sure.
Use code TCA10.
But if I didn't have this data at my fingertips, there is no way I would have known what I'm about to tell you. So this particular area it's called Prestwich. And as you know, when we're presenting to clients, we get right into the micro data. So Rory, obviously you can build your areas, as you know, in Dataloft, to whatever you want. But I find that the best way of doing it is, rather than just saying, like, so for me, Bolton is a massive town, but Bromley Cross might be performing completely differently to, say, West Orton, because they're on completely different sides of town. They've got different pros, different cons, etc. And this particular part of Prestwich had dropped since January 15%, 15%, which is massive. And there's no way I would have known that if I didn't have the data to me. But in this particular micro area, it's dropped 15%. And that is also since he went on the market with me. He needs to sell, and that's the data that I presented to him. And it is still pointing down. There's no roller coaster effect on this one. It is literally going down every month. And the key here as well is, obviously, we've only got data up to, at the moment, August. So you're always at 2 or 3 months behind. And that will be reflective of offers that was made 3 and 6 months prior to that, because those are completed sales. So you then have to move across from the likes of Dataloft. There's loads of other stuff in there, and look at the real-time data. So what are Rightmove telling you? They've got all the buyer activity. They've got all the real-time sales that are taking place. Rick's Chartered Surveyors is another interesting one, because they're reporting their data. They can see what mortgage approvals are, or certainly what surveys they're being asked to do. You've got Halifax and Nationwide HPI, and they can give you the sentiment in the market. And there is no doubt about it, it is quiet, and you've got to adapt in that changing market. So if you're not using data at the top end of market, particularly, to be honest, to me, all ends of the market, but if you're not using it, then it's actually irresponsible. You've got to be reporting this properly to your homeowners. So as we always say, they can make informed decisions, because we don't control the market conditions. So we can control the marketing, the exposure that it receives, the communication with the homeowner, but we can't control the market, and neither can they. And you should never apologise for not being able to sell a home unless your marketing's really, really terrible, and your exposure's really terrible, and your communication's really terrible. You should just be picking up the phone regularly, speaking to your clients, and telling them the truth. This is what's happening in the market. I'm telling you now, I've got all the data in front of me. You probably don't have it. I've got it, and I'm telling you this is what's happening. Do with it what you will, Mr. Homeowner.
It's really interesting that you say that you would almost say to some people, it's probably not the right time to put it on the market, because that's really, really brave, and really, you really stand out as an agent by doing that. We have worked with other people like that. So we used to work with a guy called Chris Bolton in Sunderland, who was a Martin & Co, owned a couple of Martin & Co branches, and he just lived and breathed Dataloft, and his whole business and marketing was based around giving information and helping people. And he would have local developers that would come in and just sit down with him and have a coffee, and they'd log into the platform, and he'd advise them on where to buy and where to invest and all the rest of it. And actually a lot of them didn't do anything at all. But then they came back to him sort of 3-4 years later, and when they were ready, he was their man. So you sort of like, you've got to get your sales coming in regularly. You've got to get your pipeline going through, but you're also kind of doing long-term work for potential future business. And the other thing that you said earlier was really interesting was, like if you're a low to mid-end agent, then you will actually, if you're a low to mid-end, so like I always mention Michelle Gallagher, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
She's like the most unbelievable estate agent I've ever come across, because, she's so dynamic, and everything is informed and led by data, and that's her whole marketing approach when she talks to clients, all the rest of it. But she will probably, she might actually be angry with me for saying it, but I think they're generally a low to mid-end agent.
I think she's proud to be that. We've had that conversation before, actually, with her.
I think the profile she's built, based around expertise and local knowledge, I guarantee she'll get people with expensive homes in the area coming to her as well as a result of it. So you're sort of sowing the seeds for your low to mid-end business. You will attract the attention of the higher end of the market by doing that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, just being the authority and constantly talking about this and having it all to hand. I mean, so Ian is the king of like community work and getting his, he does his regular six weekly updates on the market conditions itself. It's all based around data. It's that consistent approach you've got to take. And I think as well, Rory, one of the problems in our industry, people are just looking for the next instruction all the time. Constantly, it goes quiet, and then you know when it's quiet because you'll see agents popping up on your feed, and they'll be saying, "Hi, so this is how you stage your house, and this is what we do before it." Or they'll say, "Right, the market in Ramsbottom's gone down 5% this month, and the number of transactions taking place," and then they'll disappear because they've got 3 listings, and then you'll not see them again for 6 months, and then they'll come back when it's quiet again. And the problem is they lack consisting with the lead generation. But it all goes hand in hand. I mean, having a system like this, whether it's Dataloft, 20A, whatever it might be, it gives you the tools to consistently keep your market informed. And you should have a niche market that you go to, so mid to high end. We make no secret of it. We consistently target the same houses every single time. James alluded to it before about the Bulldog clip, people keeping letters. And I had a great example of that quite recently. The house that we did a take on at last week. It's going to be an off-market opportunity initially, but we've done the full hit: video, photos, planning, staging, etc. It's £3 million that, and it's cost me about six stamps, 6 envelopes, 6 letters to get it, but over a period of 2 years. I've never spoken to him before in my life. He has been collecting our letters, and he literally pulled out a plastic wallet, and it had every single letter in there, and he pulled them all out.
Wow.
And said, yeah, I've been getting your letter every quarter, so it's really interesting to hear what you've got to say. And whatever you tell me today is I understand what's happening in the market. So let's talk about it.
We had a funny one like that as well. So we, I was talking about Winchester earlier. There's an agent in Winchester called Charters who are a very, very good agent, but they didn't exist 12 years ago. And they came into a market which was dominated, as I mentioned earlier, by sort of high-end agents like Hamptons and Savills and Knight Frank. They're like, right, I want to be as good as them from day one. I want to throw out the script and do everything differently. And so they came to Dataloft and said, I want to commission a market report for Winchester from you, and I'm going to send that to 60,000 people in Winchester every month without fail. And they did that for sort of 10 years. And then I'm going to take the stats and I'm going to put them into my social media. I'm going to email them to my database. I'm going to have them on my website. I'm going to have printouts of the reports when people come into the office. I'm going to make sure that the people take them out when they do valuations. And they really built their profile really, really quickly. But yeah, it was a similar thing. They used to have people used to receive those market reports, and they would save them up. And there was a group that met and used to just chat about them. So often they would bring them into the office and say, I got your report, can we chat? And there was actually a group that got together to talk about the local market on the back of those reports. So you're spot on. It's about, but it's the consistency is the key. Like, you guys are so consistent with what you do, and you keep hammering away with the same message.
Yeah.
Well, a question I've got for you. What's something that maybe isn't on the radar for agents that Dataloft does have? So obviously we're using it for valuations, putting together sort of mapper transactions, CSVs, etc. Like, what would you? Is there anything that we're missing, maybe, that Dataloft has that we could be doing more with?
Good question.
I would say, are you using all the prime market content? That's effectively. So we've got flyers that are focused on the top 25% of the market. We've got letters. We've got a lovely market report, only focused on that side of the market. We've got a widget, which we call a smart page, which you can automatically have on your website. So if you've got a prime brand or a prime section of your website, you can have local stats sitting there that automatically update every month. I think ChatGPT has massively transformed what you can do with the content as well. So if you've got a prime market report, which is a one-page market report, which is updated every month, and I if you feed that into ChatGPT and say, create me a blog, 300-word blog on the prime market, then it does a really beautiful job of doing that within seconds. So I think make sure if you've got Dataloft and you're targeting that end of the market, make sure you're utilising every single bit of prime content on there and putting that through your marketing channels. Yeah.
And that, so am I right in thinking that you take in stuff like the Rightmove HPI as well, and you report and comment on things like that as well? So I guess, Ian's superb at it in terms of the video content. Every 6 weeks, he's basically doing and you mentioned sort of ChatGPT, he's doing a version of the Rightmove HPI, putting it out on social media, sending it to his database consistently. Do you think there's something maybe that we could be utilising within Dataloft then that has that at our fingertips as well, maybe with a slightly different angle?
I mean, there's lots of it's really important to show that you know the national picture as well, because that sets up a wider context for the market. There's lots and lots. There's commentary, there's stats, there's a market report about the national market. There's a flyer. So, actually, if you take a market report and feed it into ChatGPT, that creates a blog really nicely. But I think you've got all the data at your fingertips, and it's about, if you utilize it and mix it with other technology like ChatGPT, you can take the content and spin it in so many different ways now. But yeah, there's a lot more to, obviously the local data is the really bit that people love in Dataloft, but you can also look at what's happening regionally, you can look at what's happening nationally as well. And it's about, thinking about, obviously there's, as I've just mentioned, there's lots of prime market outputs on there, but if you're thinking about new revenue streams, then, you might want to think, I'd like more new homes business. And then we've got a whole range of reports and flyers and letters and a website page for new homes. Or you might think, I want to get more landlords on my books. So we've got this incredible rental data set that sits behind the platform, which is quite unique and market leading in that it focuses only on rent paid transactions.
Interesting.
We've got really in-depth information about renters. So, if you want to nurture relationships and build relationships with landlords, especially in the prime rental market, that would go down really well. Then there's outputs you can use there.
I might put you on the spot a little bit here, but I'm intrigued. How do you know? Maybe I'm being thick here, but because we don't, obviously we're kind of sales only, like sort of podcast generally. But I'm about to add a sort of mid to high end lettings business to my company. Dave has a lettings business. I know Ian, you've had experience in that before with your previous business. How do you find how do you know what the rent achieved is? Like, how is that categorized?
Yeah, so we take it from, we work with tenant referencing companies.
Okay.
So we get all that information from an application. So not only what the rent was that was finally paid, but lots and lots of in-depth information about those renters. So we know what kind of jobs they do, how far they commute to work, whether they're families or singles or whatever. So we can paint a really rich picture of that. So one of the fast-growing markets in the UK is the build-to-rent market, which I'm not really familiar with.
Massive, isn't it, at the moment?
And that's basically a section of the market where they're building properties just for rent. So this is quite big-scale developers building, say, blocks of flats. So if you look at the Olympic Village in London, they turned all the athletes' accommodation into build-to-rent accommodation. So that specific one is quite high-end. They've got facilities, they've got co-working spaces. You can socialise. They've got sports teams and all that kind of stuff. But even now, that's filtering out into what they call single-family housing anywhere in small towns around the UK. So we work quite a lot with build-to-rent operators to help them work out where they should be building, what kind of people live in that area, what kind of jobs do they do, how much can they afford with their rent, what's their affordability ratio, and that helps them sort of plan where they're going to go next. But there's definitely a massive potential for estate agents, a local expert in the rental market.
I can just see that. My eyes lit up. It's the first time, admittedly, while we're talking now, as I just logged into Dataloft while we're talking. And I just did. Obviously, we've got the rental thing. I haven't actually used it yet. And just done the average achieved rents for the area that we're in. Having looked at the average prices recently, and it is really interesting if you apply the same formula that we apply to our valuations in terms of looking at the graph. So going back to January 2020, prices achieved, looking at what the peak was, and then looking at where we're at today. The trend of the graph actually scarily similar to the sales market in this particular instance in terms of rents that have been achieved month on month, and it's just made me think that there's definitely a huge opportunity here, even if you don't do lettings, because let's be honest, a lot of the clients that we send, or a lot of the homes that we send our quarterly markets updates to, I mean, my client, I've got just selling property for them at sort of 3.5. They're a huge portfolio landlord, and if we were to maybe enrich our market updates slightly with what the average rents are doing and how that's affecting the market, there's also a possibility there to be writing to these people and informing them on what the market's doing. Like you say, stepping into that build to rent sector, finding out who the main players are in that area, maybe approaching them on LinkedIn and saying, I've just made this market report for you. I know you're into build to rent. Hope you find this useful. If you need any more information on data, let's have a conversation.
Well, it's a fast growing sector, and then the operators won't have the teams to be operating around the country, so they will need estate agents to step in. It's the same with the new homes market. We're forever behind schedule on how many new homes are being built. It's never ending, and the developers don't have the team to sell locally. So so a lot of people will use the platform to think like, where can I find new revenue streams? Whether it's getting into new homes, getting into prime homes, getting into build to rent market, or finding more landlords, and then using the evidence and the outputs from the platform to sort of show that they know their stuff. Yeah,
it's interesting. I must admit, like from the last 5 minutes of our conversation, it just made me realise how much of the platform we're underutilising. I mean, we're in it for context. I think I said earlier, Dave is the one that brought me and Ian into the sort of Dataloft sphere. We'd always been kind of a best price guide, look at what similar homes have sold for, work out the pound per square foot from that. Manual writing on reports, and we've sold this and we've sold that. And it was almost a revelation, 2.5, 3 years ago, when Dave said to us, guys, I'm using this. And it's just, I mean, not only for me and Ian, but for a lot of the guys that are in the Complete Agent, the members around the country, like it's been transformational for them when it comes to, delivering valuations to clients in terms of what it could be worth, giving people advice, and really going from being just another agent to being that trusted advisor that has that data-led approach, those particular insights into the market. And as you said earlier, that trust, and but it's giving them confidence as well. And I think that was one thing. I mean, I'd heard of Dataloft before in the sphere of prop tech, but I never really understood what it did and what it could give me until obviously Dave kind of introduced that to us. And now my whole team's trained on it. Literally, the first thing is, like you're here in our office. Are you on Dataloft? Like, I need to do this.
So nice. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I mean, it started off as a research tool. So it was about how do we turn huge amounts of land reg data from a spreadsheet into something that people can access really quickly so they can do their research. And then we started adding things like infographics and branded market reports, and it very quickly became a marketing content tool as well. So I think the most proactive users are using it both to back up their valuations and understand more about the market, and then consistently every month across their marketing channels. But the fact that you guys are going out, a lot of agents obviously will use a Rightmove report or a Zoopla report to take them to valuation. The fact that you guys are personally preparing for those valuations and looking at lots of different bits of evidence is amazing. It will go down really well with customers, I'm sure.
And it differentiates you, doesn't it? Like you go into the property, and how many times we've talked about this before, Ian, where you go into the meeting, not only are we different in terms of our approach and our marketing and the properties that we sell, but equally when we go and we articulate what the market is doing and what their home's worth. Quite often I've been there before where another agent's just left, 30 minutes before, the seat's still warm, and there's a Rightmove best price guide on there and a couple of brochures. And a about us pack, but there's never a graph explaining and articulating what the data's done. Why 33% worth of aggregate inflation over the last 5 years has impacted the market. Why this section of the market grew with no stamp duty, 1 to 2% interest rates, 4 to 6% interest rates in this part. What the pressures are on the market, why buyer behaviour is like it is. Go into the granular detail of, getting the spreadsheet together of the last 12 months, so if you're going to a £3 million house, and let's be honest, in certainly where I am, there isn't an abundance of homes that are 3-4 million plus. That is kind of the super prime market where we are. So quite often you have to go further afield or outside of the postcode to find properties that have sold of a certain value. But also equally, you can extrapolate the prime and super prime markets and look at what's the minimum someone's prepared to pay for a house per square foot in this market, what's the average, what's the maximum, and then once we've got the property measured, we can go, right, okay, well, based on the data, the minimum someone would be prepared to pay is this, the average would probably be this, the max would be this. So there's three prices there. If a house needs a lot of work doing to it and somebody's got to plow 500k into it, then maybe it's going to sit in that min to average range. But if it's the showstopper, the one of a kind, the Ian's selling a house at the moment in Cheshire, which we affectionately call on the pod the Bond villain house that is set into the Cheshire countryside, into the hills. Like, it's an incredible home. That's one of those homes that's going to hit that max pound per square foot and possibly break a record. We've done that a few times. And they're the conversations that you can have. But again, it's articulated rather than going, what do you think it's worth? And let's just make up a number and see if it happens. We can really take a data-led approach to every single property, whether it's a 4-bed detached on a housing estate and show what other homes have sold for, or whether it's the prime property to 3 or to 5 million or whatever, and say, this is what the prime market is prepared to pay for this sort of home. Let's extrapolate that against your square footage, and these are the numbers that come out. Now, Dave's line, tell me, what would you hope to achieve? And if the top end of the data says, I don't know, 2.7, and they say, well, really hoping to achieve 2.5. Great. Well, the data supports that valuation if it is at what's perceived to be the maximum level. So is it a generational home? Is it a 1 in 25 year opportunity to own this house? Does it have incredible views? Is it amazing inside? If it's got sort of real one-offs and it's got that sort of maximum square footage capacity to its valuation, then great, it's achievable. However, if they're saying, I wouldn't sell it for any less than 2.5, all of the kitchens need doing, all the bathrooms need doing, it hasn't been touched in 20 years, and there isn't really nothing special about it, then there's an argument to say that, look, it may well sit realistically in the average spectrum of near 1.7 to 2. So it just really gives you the power to be able to go in there confidently, but back, it's not your opinion. The data is the data.
Yeah, that's really important. It's you're unbiased and you're not.
Yeah.
I think that's what people have always liked about Dataloft over the years. We say it as it is. We don't have a bias. I suppose you could argue that a big research team for one of the huge big agents might have a certain bias to what they're saying, or certainly base their stats around what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think, for what you've already just wowed me by the way you're talking about the market. And I've never had an agent talk to me about the market in the way that you've just spoken about it. That's immediately I can see you've got a high value brand, and that you know your stuff. And I think for a lot of agents, even if they're at the lower end of the market and use Dataloft, it allows them a chance to. It gives them something to say. It gives them something to chat about. So I know that one of the big groups we work with, they're really keen on making sure that every agent prints out a market report every month and has it sitting next to their phone, so that they can drop in the odd, I see average prices have gone up again this month, or the budget's coming up. It'd be interesting to see what comes out of that, and sort of dropping in little kind of nuggets that make you think that conversation's gone to a higher level.
And that's the trusted advisor part of it, isn't it? Knowing and being able to articulate the market. What is also interesting, Rory, from you said something interesting, and thank you. It's very nice of you to say. But we've also come from, all three of us have come from effectively Purple Bricks knockoffs, in the last 10 years, shall we say, in total.
Yeah,
so we've all gone from thinking that it was all going to go to the internet age, selling cheap terraces for £900 or less plus VAT, to pivoting and succeeding in the upper end of the market and taking that data-led approach. And I just think that anyone that is listening to this that's going, oh well, it's all right for you guys selling 2, 3, 4, 5 million pound houses all the time, but we're not saying that. What we're saying is whatever end of the market. Dave's got 2 brands that does the lower to the mid end. We do mid to upper end. Premium. I like to say, we've sold the odd 300 grander, the odd 200 grander here and there. But generally, the main, the average price of our brand is about 720 grand roughly, and that covers all the way up to 3.5 million. Generally, the cheapest is generally about 500. But people that come to us know what we're about, know what we do, because I think it just, when people look at our website's just having an overhaul, and it's going to be ready in the next 3 months. But when people look at your website anyway and look at what you sell and look at your social media, and we did a little mini series actually right at the start of the pod. We've been going nearly 2 years now, actually, haven't we? So right at the start of the pod, we did a little mini series on what we do and how we do it. And one of the sections is, how do you look? And people will always, whether you like it or not, as an agency, they'll always judge you on how you look. If you're called like One Stop I Move 123 or something like that, or the low cost property shop or something like that, someone with a £3.5 million house is never going to go, do you know what? They are the guys to sell my house. So you've got to look it, but also you've got to have I suppose you need to be able to articulate it behind. So you need to back up what you're saying you're doing. And I think, Dataloft just, this isn't an hour episode for Dataloft, because I think we've had a really good conversation between us all, but it does really help us as agents back up. And also one thing I would say for me is it's helped me be a better estate agent in the last 2-3 years, because it's really helped me understand. I'll give a lot of credit to Dave for this. It's really made me understand the data a lot more. But also it's helped me to articulate that to people that I'm sitting in front of, so that now I can say, right, this is what the market is doing, this is why it's doing what it's doing, and this is what it looks like. And also you can leave it on their coffee table afterwards. And when they're making their decision about which agent that they're going to choose, they're going, right, well, Rightmove report. Oh, yeah, the data guy. Like, oh, yeah, he's the one that does the videos. Oh, and then all of a sudden they're back to your website again going, do you know what?
No, first impressions are really important, but the website, like you said, the website is really, you have to live and breathe the prime market. So your website needs to be really classy looking. But, there's the stat from the Home Moving Trend Survey that 51% of people check an agent's website before they make a final decision. And that number is growing. So whatever you've preached to that person that you've met, make sure that you're backed up by what's on your website.
100%.
And so that's, actually showing it as beautiful imagery and obviously examples of the type of properties that you sell, but making sure that there's an insight section on your homepage that you can see really, really quickly to back that up. And then it's thinking like, okay, well, in the higher end of the market, people take their time putting their property in the market. So I've had a great first impression with them. How am I going to stay in touch? So it's about thinking nurture marketing. And you've now got an excuse to reach out to them because you've already showed them that you know what's going on in the local market. So therefore, every month you can then share something new about the local market, whether it's just sending them some stats by email or sharing a link to a market report or a link to your prime market insights on your website. In Europe, PriceHubble works with some of the leading estate agents where they give them a kind of portal to log into. So they call it an ownership portal. So even whether you're working with that agent yet or not, you're given a login. You can log in. You can see what's happening with the value of your property roughly. You can see what else is sold. And you can see what's happening with trends in that market. And then obviously once you've got someone logging into your website, then you've got the ability to upsell other products to them, whether it's mortgages or insurance or whatever. So in Europe, a lot of the biggest agents have sort of got this ecosystem of like, we'll start off by showing them something of value, and then we'll nurture them and get them logging in and almost like members of our agency.
Yeah.
And then once we've got them on a hook, then we can talk to them about other products we've got as well. So it's quite an interesting approach.
Yeah, perfect. It's been a great pod, and I know Dave was text me already saying that he was gutted to leave. So before we wrap it up, do you want to give? I mean, it's been an hour-long plug, to be honest, with Dataloft, but do you want to give Dataloft a quick plug and how people can sort of find and get in touch with you before we call it a day?
Yeah, sure. Just send me an email, rory.black@pricehubble.com. And we can give you a quick overview. I mean, it's very quick to sign up. All we need to understand is, what postcodes you've got in your patch, how many areas you cover, and then we can set up an account within 24 hours. And, within the account, everything is branded. You can have your own photos on all the outputs, like market reports, etc. So, yeah, just give me a shout and I can give a quick demo, and it's all very quick and effortless, really.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you all next week.